Good night, Shabbos, everyone. Shabbos Parshas Tazria. Just want to share just a small, simple thought. We're about to enter into Parashos that deal with Lashon Hara, that deal with tzoras, deal with the punishment for Lashon Hara, which means that a lot of the drashas, a lot of the things we're going to be hearing, a lot of the talk is going to be about Lashon Hara. These are the Parashos. These are the weeks. We talk about Lashon Hara. It's appropriate getting ready for Pesach to talk about Lashon Hara because we know that it was because of Lashon Hara that we stayed in Golus, that Moshe Rabbeinu said when he recognized that Das and Avram had spoken Lashon Hara to Paro about him, he said, "Achein no da'adavar." Now I understand why things are happening. And then when they had an opportunity to speak Lashon Hara many years later, when he came to redeem the Jews from Mitzrayim, and they didn't speak Lashon Hara, he says, Lama Riyos, he turns to God and he says, why are you doing such bad things? Because it was all Lashon Hara. It was a thing that kept us in Galus. We know the Chofetz Chaim says that if you look at every Galus, somehow it's associated with some kind of negative speech. It's associated with Lashon Hara. So you have to wonder, what's the real problem with Lashon Hara? Are you hurting people? You're saying bad things about people. You're destroying a person's character. All that is very, very important. But I think there are two very critical factors, very critical things that make Lashon Hara such a terrible thing. The first problem with Lashon Hara is that it's all about negativity. The only reason that I have something negative to say about you is because I'm seeing something negative. But if I was able to look at you and to be able to give you the benefit of the doubt, if I was able to be able to see a positive side of you, if I were able to be able to see and feel a love for you, even when you did something wrong, I would be able to understand, you know what, it's a mistake. There's something wrong. Even there's something wrong with you, but it's not negative. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's not a problem. So I don't need to tell everybody about that. It's what I've recognized about you. That's all. And it is what it is. And I'm going to deal with it. But the fact that I see negative in you, the fact that I feel negative about you, that's the reason why I speak Lashon Hara. I could take pins and I could pin them in my mouth. I could staple it, I could tape it, and it's not going to fix Lashon Hara. The only thing that's going to fix Lashon Hara is the way I see you and the way I see the world. And when I start realizing that I'm speaking a lot of Lashon Hara, I have to realize that my problem is that I'm being very negative. It's fascinating that the word nega, which is the word disease, and the word oneg, which is the word joy, made of the same letters. Aleph, ayin, nun, gimel, ayin. What's the difference between an oneg, between a joy and a nega, and something so negative and terrible? Where you put the ayin, where you put the eyes. If you put them in a certain way, then it's an oneg. Life is good. You flip it around and you look at it from a different perspective, and all of a sudden that idea becomes a nega. It becomes something negative. That's the danger of Lashon Hara. The danger of Lashon Hara is that you become a negative person. You say one negative thing leads to a second negative thing, leads to a third negative thing. You start to look at the world that way, and everything is verbissen. Everything is bitter. Everything is bad. And it has a terrible, terrible effect on the person themselves. Oh, of course, on the person you spoke about. And of course, the person that heard it. But it destroys you because it turns you into a negative person. And the other thing it does is that it separates you from the world and it defines you as a person who has no connections and wants no connections. Because we know that when you're speaking Lashon Hara about another person, you're judging them. When you judge a person, you're separating yourself from them. By definition, a judge can't be related to the person that he's judging because he needs to stay separated, because that's what happens when you judge. When you're giving a true, honest assessment of something, then you have to be disconnected. But we don't want you to be disconnected, because when you look at other people and you look at every other person and you judge every other person, then you're disconnected from everyone. When I speak Lashon Hara about you and I've judged you, so what I'm saying is that you and I have no connection to each other. You and I aren't one, which is the opposite of the way we're meant to see people. Look, there are times where you have to have a person who is an official judge to be able to look at situations, to be able to decide whether they're okay or not okay. But those are halachic decisions. But when I look at you as a person, When I look at you as a person, I need to feel like I'm your relative. I need to feel like I'm connected to you. I need to feel like I'm one with you. And when I'm judging you and I'm speaking Lashon Hara about you, and I'm deciding the kind of person that you are, so then I'm disconnecting myself from you. And I'm standing alone. And that's the way I have to be purified. I have to be separated. I have to be alone. I have to tell people, Tommy Yikra, don't go near me. I'm bad news. Because I'm alone. And being alone is horrific. Especially when we make ourselves alone. And we separate ourselves from others. We say, I have nothing to do with you. That's the devastating effects of Lashon Hara. I become negative, and I become alone and separated and disconnected from everything around me. And that's why the Torah spends two hefty parshas about telling us about Soras and about telling us ultimately about how horrific Lashon Hara is. Because you can't live alone. And you can't live in a negative world. Because you'll never make it. And that's part of the process of purifying ourselves and of bringing ourselves to other people and of rehabilitating ourselves, is recognizing how awful it is. How awful it is to live alone. And how awful it is to live in a black, dark, negative world. We should be zeicher when we learn these parshas. Not to look at it and go, my gosh, Lashon Hara is so terrible. Recognize why it's so terrible. I'm going to stop speaking Lashon Hara. I'm not going to talk bad about people anymore. Yeah, shkayach, yes, you are. I'm not going to look at people negatively. And I'm not going to feel disconnected from people. Now you're going to make it. You're going to succeed. May we understand that it's all about where you put your eyes. It's all about where that ayin is. If it's in the front, it's oneg. If it's in the back, it's nega. The decision as to whether it's going to be bright and happy and joyous and filled with people, or it's going to be lonely and miserable, it's all in your eyes. And it's all in your hands. Have a beautiful, amazing, wonderful, awesome Shabbos.